Fantasy football players, welcome into Sports Talk for You. This is our fantasy football show this week. Our sit-em stardom. We have a lot of sit-em stardoms going on. So let's get started with this. One guy that's really sneaky I want to get started on is J.D. McKissick with the Washington Redskins. This guy was nothing beginning of the year. Now he's a top-notch guy because, of course, with Kyle Allen out for the year, Alex Smith is in. Alex Smith is a check-down quarterback. Chiefs fans know all about that. Chiefs running backs know all about that. So if you have J.D. McKissick, which I do have in our league, I have him on the starting lineup. Start this guy. He will get a lot of receptions. The last 2 weeks, he has over 31 targets from Alex Smith, which is just ridiculous for a running back, but that's what Alex Smith does. So start J.D. McKissick. Who's the guy that you got?
Yeah, I agree with that one. Which is kind of shocking too, since they have Gibson, Antonio Gibson, the rookie, and he's
running back.
Yeah, he's had a good season, and the fact that JD was able to do what he did the other day, I would say that would be a good start.
Now here's a tough one. Start or sit Amari Cooper? Andy Dalton coming back.
To me, it's kind of a crapshoot. He's on a team. He makes like 3 number 1 receivers on the team. Problem is that offensive line cannot give Andy Dalton time, let alone any other quarterback. If this was, is it Gilbert, the other quarterback's name?
Gilbert, yeah.
Yeah. If it was him, I'd be a little more apt to starting Cooper because he can scramble around, and the thing that I've learned with Nick Foles and Dalton is they're good passers. The problem is they can't scramble, so therefore if you apply pressure just a little bit, it kind of gets them flustered. Now, I could be wrong this game, but it's kind of a crapshoot to start Amari Cooper. I'd lean towards no. But if you're in a deep league and you have no choice, then all the best to you.
Exactly. Now I want to get to Jarvis Landry. This receiving core with Baker Mayfield has been a disaster. Odell Beckham's out, so you're thinking Jarvis Landry will go on a roll. This has not happened. Of course, last week was a miserable weather game in Cleveland. It was more running backs game in that game, 50-mile-per-hour winds, rain, so that game there was an excuse there for the quarterbacks. But other than that, Jarvis Landry really hasn't had many points. I mean, this guy is averaging maybe 650 yards a game, if that. I mean, and not many targets because Baker Mayfield just is not the right quarterback in Cleveland. So in my opinion, I would sit Jarvis Landry if you have any better options out there.
Yeah, only if you have better options. Thing of it is, last week, like you mentioned, the conditions were not right for throwing. But, also, too, Cooper, the tight end that they have, is coming back from an injury. I know he played last week, but, again, the conditions were not right for throwing. So, you know what? I would give Landry one more week. This is just my opinion, just one more week just to really see. And then go from there, especially with Hooper coming back.
He's playing the Philadelphia defense, so that gives him an advantage.
Yeah. So, I would lean towards a start with Landry, and then I would lean towards a start with Hooper, But it is what it is. Like you said, Baker Mayfield is kind of an unpredictable quarterback,
Yes.
So, but I'd lean towards start Landry.
Now I want to get to the guy that I was going to pick up last week, did not pick up, and I should have picked up, NYHIEM Hines with the Indianapolis Colts. This guy this week plays Green Bay, which their defense is a lot better than Tennessee's defense last week. But if you have Hines, play Hines, because this week they said Hines will most likely be the lead back this week, and Jonathan Taylor will be the second string back behind him. So Hines will mostly be the receiving back, and Taylor will mostly take the rushes. But then again, Hines, man, when he gets in that red zone, gets those receptions, he finds the end zone. So if you have NYHIEM Hines, start him.
Yeah, and that's another interesting one too. And if I would lean towards a start with Nico Hines. I think that's a good call. You know, especially if you're in a league where you're kind of desperate for a running back, especially with David Johnson on the IR. But then again, it's like, was he really a running back for you this whole fantasy season? That's a debatable issue. But if you're desperate to, you know, get somebody and you need to play somebody, I'd say start them. Green Bay does have, I think, a bit better defense for against running backs. But with all that said, I mean, Phillip Rivers loves checking down to running backs, and Hines is the check down, whereas Taylor's more of the I get the ball handoff and then I run with it. So I would start Hines, especially if oh gosh, what's that wide receiver? T.Y. Hilton
Yes.
is out. I would even think about picking up Pittman too. He had a strong outing last week, but you know, I mean, it is Green Bay's D, and you never know what to expect kind of from them, you know. But I like the Hines start.
Yeah. Now let's get to Christian Kirk. This guy is, I don't know, last 4 weeks he was on, and then I played him this week, and all he got was 7 points. He only had, I believe, 4 receptions, 27 yards. So, but this week they play Seattle tomorrow night at Seattle. Last time they played Seattle, Christian Kirk had 2 big catches for 2 touchdowns. Bam, that's a lot of points for PPR league. So, in my
Right.
opinion, Christian Kirk is a stardom.
Yeah. No,
Yes.
you start Christian Kirk just because Seattle will not allow DeAndre Hopkins to beat him. I mean, that's just it. The only question mark that Kirk has is, well, will Isabella, you know, steal some of his thunder? But it's like you said, he had a good previous, 4 games, 5 games, but last week kind of was a bit of a dud. But you know what? Um, I think I'd start him, especially if you're in a league where you're desperate enough to do it and you don't really have that great of a backup. So I think to me, Christian Kirk is a start.
Yes. Now let's get to Keenan Cole with the Jaguars. He had that huge game last week, 4 receptions, a touchdown. Then he had that, I believe it was an 88-yard punt return for a touchdown. But
Mhm.
I believe this week you got to sit this guy because it seems like he plays one big week and then he just falls off the next week. And he's going up against a Pittsburgh defense that is very good against in the secondary. So for Keenan Cole, if you have him in the starting lineup, I suggest you take him out and sit him this week if you have a better option.
Mhm. Well, you know, a lot of his success also rides on whether Chenault plays or
And Chenault is
not.
coming back this week, so that'll
So,
be big.
I mean, so basically, he's going to be, you know, fighting for those receiving yards between Chark, Chenault. Um, yes, Pittsburgh's good. They have a good secondary. I mean, it's going to be tough, but you know what? I'm going to go with, man, I'll go with a stardom just because I feel like, you know, you don't know what to technically expect with Chenault. But at the same time, the Steelers know they have to shut down Chark #1 and Chenault #2. I mean, it's that simple.
Yeah,
So they're going to probably make the third and the fourth guy try to beat him anyway. This is just my opinion. Again, you never know. It's kind of a crapshoot, you know, because you just never know against good defenses, you know.
yeah.
So, but I'll lean towards a start with him.
Now I want to get to Chase Edmonds and Kenyon Drake. My
Mm-hmm.
idea: sit Drake, play Edmonds. Drake is still hobbly. He's going up against, I believe Seattle's a good run D. They just have a terrible secondary. So I would sit Drake, start Edmonds because Edmonds gets most of the passing plays than Kenyon Drake does. And I believe they're still going to be 50-50 split.
Um, yeah, I'd play Edmonds over Drake. That's just me. Um, yeah, Didn't they go off? Didn't Edmonds kind of go off in their
It-
first meeting?
yes,
So you know what? It's like, until they prove they can stop the run, Seattle, because I really feel like they're going to try to limit the passing yards. It's more along the lines of stopping the run because that includes Kyler Murray too. So honestly, why not? I say give them a shot.
exactly. Because I mean, you don't know about Kenyon Drake. That guy's so injury prone.
Hmm.
It makes you want to know, is he going to get injured or not?
Well, yeah, and even if he wasn't injury prone, he's been so inconsistent this past year that's been disappointing, really.
Yeah.
So,
Now I want to get to the last one. Jaguars quarterback Jake Luton. I believe he has one more weekend until Gardner Minshew comes off the IR list. Um, we saw how terrible this guy was against the Green Bay defense. Now he's going up against Pittsburgh defense. Unless you are in dire need and have a two quarterback league and have two quarterbacks on a bye week, you play him. But if you already have a quarterback, don't even pick up Jake Luton. Sit the guy. He is not going to give you the 45 points in PPR league.
yeah, it's kind of funny you mentioned that because the Cowboys had their fourth string quarterback going and kind of lit them up. I honestly highly doubt they're going to allow Luton to really get it going the way that Gilbert did for the Cowboys.
Exactly.
But could I be wrong? Sure. But you know what? I'd sit them unless, like you said, you're absolutely desperate enough for it. So it is what it is. And good luck.
Yes. Now, Michael Gallup. This is our last one here. Michael Gallup, do you sit him, start him?
Um, I'd start them. Why not?
Yes. I mean, it's all going to depend on Andy Dalton, how he feels. If he feels like throwing deep or if he feels like checking down to Cooper, that's going to be the main concern.
Yeah, and it also relies on whether Ezekiel Elliott can get going, but more importantly, it's just a matter of is the offensive line going to give them more than 1.5 seconds?
Exactly. So
Uh, it's-
I do have one more because this is a sleeper, and he will play one more week until Austin Eckler comes back off the IR. But Kalen Ballage has shown the last 2 weeks he is the Chargers' lead back with Austin Eckler and Justin Jackson out. Play the guy this week. The guy will get you points. He's gotten a lot of points the last 2 weeks, and he plays the awful, piss poor, just in this season, New York Jets.
yeah, anybody with a Chargers helmet on that's on the offensive side, I'd start.
Yeah,
Period.
that Jets
So
defense is one of the worst. So
it's just atrocious. You know, I wish you could lose your draft rights to the first pick of the draft based on how just bad you are, but on a consistent basis. Like if you had like one or two seasons where you were terrible, then sure, I get you're the first pick. But the fact that it just seems so consistent the last 3, 4, 5 years, really, they should just end up forfeiting. The number 10, whoever's the number 10 pick goes to first, and and then the Jets take the number 10. Because I'm sorry, it's just that team's just a disaster and will be as long as Adam Gase is the head coach.
Like we say, just in the season. Capital
Just
A, capital E, capital C, capital S.
Jets,
So,
Jets.
all right, that's our fantasy football stardom sit-em for this week. So go ahead and subscribe to our channel if you're a fantasy football fan. We will have more of these each week. And we will see you guys next Wednesday for the more fantasy football picks.